All right, guys, welcome to the Portable Success podcast. It is me again, Emily, and today I have Alex joining me, who is a good friend of mine from the gym, but also an entrepreneur himself, works full-time, and is now starting an exciting new project, which I'll let him tell you more about. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, excited to be on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So, obviously, I'm very fortunate to have known about this project practically since it started, and I was just as excited as you were when you first told me about it. And I remember standing there in the gym as you're trying to do I think you were doing some back pulls or something, and I'm there like, no, tell me more about the project, please. So do you want to tell people a little bit more about yourself, because obviously you work full-time, you're very much like I am. You work full-time, but you've got obviously this side project going on, and yeah, just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I remember actually that when we were in the gym, and I think we were doing a bit of a photo shoot and just training and just catching up, and then I was like, I remember messaging you before, but like, Emily, I want to catch up with you on a couple of things. I want your opinion on things. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. So Alex Evans. As you mentioned, I work full time in specifically the IT cybersecurity software sales industry. God, that sounds very long when I say that, but so I've worked in the IT industry for about, I think, 4 or 5 years now. Currently in my third role within the industry, and it's brilliant. It's been super, corporate. I've been in it for, I think, since I was 19, I think it was, at a local organisation based in Wooders Triangle, and then sort of worked my way up, built relationships, went into the city on my second role. I lived in the city for a couple of years, which just boosted me up in terms of the career progression, because of the exposure that you get there, especially working for a startup, which I did. There was only about 8 of us, I think. So that gave me great exposure to senior management, to sort of salespeople as well. So little did I know at the time how much that would have helped me later on down the line. So, but yeah, as I say, so now in my third role there. I can go into a little bit detail on what I actually do with that if you want. But yeah, so that I do that full time, which is very much full time, very demanding. I know we've spoken before in terms of just going at the moment, especially during isolation, it's just back-to-back conference calls, super intense at the moment. And sales role. So you live and die by your last quarter's number. And it's always, you're your own. And that's what I've learned as well personally, is that within sales, especially, you're essentially an entrepreneur, because you own your own number. You are literally, the more deals that you close, the more business you win, the more commission you're going to get. So are you going to sit around and not do a lot and just do the minimum, or are you going to try and, hammer it all day, every day, hammer the phone, hammer the emails, and try and smash it? So that's quite an interesting thing, that although you could be in a large organization of people, you're very much, especially within sales, you're self-sufficient, and you're your own manager basically, which is good, which is really cool. And I think if you're the right mindset, you'll progress really well there. So that's sort of my full-time thing. As you mentioned, Project X, as I'm calling it now. I've been working on that for just over 2 years now, which is crazy to think of the journey. But yeah, that's going live in about 3 to 4 months or so, depending on sort of a few things that we're waiting on finalizing and stuff. But yeah, that's been a whirlwind. I don't know. I've got business partners who are investing in the idea, which is just crazy to think about. People twice my age are investing in an idea I thought of. That's just bonkers, because that's just, I still to this day sort of can't believe it. But it's amazing, and they're great guys. I've known them for 5 or 6 years, I think. So, we know each other for a while, and it's actually quite interesting, because I didn't go to them especially, or go to one or whatever first for specifically going, can we work on this? It was, and I'm glad I did, looking back. The way I approached it, it was a bit, they were sort of mentors for me, but personally and career wise. And I went over to them and I said, what do you think of this as a business? Could this be something? Is this an idea? Because I just thought of it overnight, sort of thing, and just thought, hang on, let's do some research. And I looked into it, and I thought, hang on a minute, this could be something. So I literally went to them and said, what do you think? Not, would you fund it? Would you partner with, just, is this something I could pursue? And they went, yeah, definitely. Let's build a business plan, and let's look at the figures. I thought, wow. So yeah, that was 2 years ago, and it's grown into the little baby it is now. And then I can't wait for you guys to get on it, really.
So you talk a lot about mindset and stuff like that, because obviously I think the way that you've just described essentially your day job leading into your project X, as we're calling it, everything like that. What I find incredible is that you linked being a salesman, that obviously that helps with your entrepreneurship, which I really think it does, because at the end of the day, either whether you're selling yourself as a personal brand or you've made a product or anything, you still need to be able to market and advertise and stuff. And then you talk a lot about mindset, which is really obviously intriguing for someone like me, because I love psychology in general. I'm a bit of a geek about it. There's a lot of people out there, though, that think that they can't do it. You had an idea, went to investors, you've got investors, which is insane. I love hearing about your story in general. But for people who think that they can't do it, what sort of mindset do you think that maybe you need to adapt to or look into, or even some research that you need to do in order to just kind of help yourself, instead of feeling like you're not going to be able to do it? Because as I said, there's so many people out there who think they're not going to do it. So what are your thoughts about your mindset around it that helps you obviously be able to go and do what you want to do?
Yeah, great question. I think it's from the get-go. I think there's sort of two things for me which I wouldn't have been able to say straight away. It's sort of saying back, sort of looking at especially the last 5-6 years, how that is the mindset sort of approach. So for me, I think, and a point that my mum sort of always said to me when I was younger, and I didn't realize sort of the relevance to it, was, what's the worst that could happen? Investors risk it, investors invest at their own risk. They know startup worlds, I think, I can't remember the stats, but something like 70% of startups has failed in the last 3 years or something like that. So, something along those lines. But yeah, it's a real risk. So that's the worst that could happen. You could lose that money. So absolutely. But you've got to say that, I don't know whether you're pursuing, I don't know, creating your own TikTok career, or, YouTube vlogging, or starting a software as a service platform, or starting, I don't know, building a business, a car mechanic business or something. It's like, what's the worst that can happen? And 9 times out of 10, it's not disastrous and not something that you can recover from. But I think that's the main sort of thing that you've got to have that focus on as well. I saw a post the other day that it says, if you doubt yourself, don't think you're the only person, because entrepreneurs and people who do their own things, I doubt myself all day, every day. I'm on calls, or I'm having negotiations around very large cybersecurity deals, or I'm having conversations around, investing or finances, all these sorts of things. And it's like, you really got to back yourself on that. And I think it's quite an interesting way that you manage that and grow it over the period of time as well. But yeah, I think in terms of that, you've really just got to back yourself. If it's something that you genuinely have a passion in, sorry, I'm going all tangents at the moment, but I just mind blur. But I think you got to start sort of with the mindset of, this could be nothing, and if it's anything over that, happy days. Yeah. And especially, I think a lot of people as well, just to go on from your point, I think a lot of people, when they say they doubt themselves, they also think, I want to do something, I want to hustle, I want to build my own, passive income, I want to build my own thing, or whatever like that. And they're like, well, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, if you don't know what to do, it'd be interesting to get your perspective on this. But personally, and I've given the advice before to people, and I've gone, do something you hate. Do a job that you really, really, really hate, that you hate to go to, because that will teach you or show you something you have a passion in, because it's human nature to you know, gravitate towards something you have an interest in or you have a project. Everyone does, no matter what. So, you know, even if you do something that you don't like, I don't know, maybe like a, I don't know, dishwasher sort of role or something like that, it's not ideal, it's not a career, but you have that. And equally, it's a mindset thing as well. So if you're doing a job like that, and I have personally sort of considered it in terms of my career, in terms of doing something that's less stressful, less demanding, so that I can just use those hours as, you know, I just have an income. I don't have to use my mindset for that, and I can focus my mindset elsewhere. Fortunately, I've got a role where, you know, I've learned a lot, so I've been able to carry it over. But yeah, I definitely think do a job that you, if you don't know what to do something that you really don't want to do, because that will push you to find a hobby or a passion. And then once you find that hobby or passion, then work out a way to make money out of it. Don't work out, if you're money, you know, great being money driven, but if you go out, how am I going to make loads of money? Personally, it's not always the best route. It's how do I deliver value? How do I deliver something of interest? And how do I build the life I want to build? And then what do I need to earn to do that? So, yeah.
I 100% agree on that. And literally your last point was my main thing. Like, that would be my viewpoint on it. Like, if I ever started any of my projects thinking, this might make me 10 grand, this might make me 20, this might do this might do that, I wouldn't have got so far with it, because then I would have just been like, well, that's cool, but maybe I missed my, you know, best friend's baby's birthday, or maybe I did this, or maybe that I did that. And especially for people, definitely the people that I mentor and stuff, I always tell them to just do what you love doing. It's like, I know, like your suggestion of doing something that you hate, believe me, been there, done that, because there are aspects of everything that you do, and especially regarding business, there are definitely massive aspects in business that I don't like. And funnily enough, my biggest thing is I hate sales, because I am a salesperson, but I'm not like the salesperson. Like, I can talk your ear off and I can tell you how much value there is and stuff like that. And then it comes to the money part. And I've had to develop that over years, because at the beginning I'd just be like, I just want to do it. Like, now I'm invested in the project because I help businesses grow. So then once I get invested in it, I'm not thinking about money anymore. I'm invested. And I think that's where I've been lucky enough to go from having a Merge Elite to begin with, where I was helping people with clothing. Then, you know, then I went into film and photography, which downright is one of my favorite things to do in the world, because I just love being able to capture things that people can't. Like, and that's not just like with gym workouts and stuff, because obviously my main kettle of fish are gym influencers, but I've gone to weddings and I've done weddings, and capturing those days is the best thing I have ever done in my life, because you are taking a snapshot of their life that they've only got in their head and putting it down. And yeah, and my mindset is usually that I love the tenacity of some people, and I love when they're like, I'm going to make £1 million, I'm going to make, you know, I'm going to change 1,000 people's lives or 1 million people's lives, and I really, really like that. But then my humble side of me just goes, if you help one person, that is one more person that you helped. And that's what I've always felt like. You know, the first business I ever took on and helped, he only paid me £50 a month, because we wanted to invest everything into his business. And now he does it full time. He's hired me he's hired me for a lot of stuff now. I've helped him hire people, because obviously there's things that I didn't want to do. And to me, that's more humbling than taking all those jobs off people, just so I can literally just like stick it in my back pocket and just be like, yeah, look at this, look at all this money I'm earning, look at me. And to me, that's the biggest thing about my mindset, and I think it's why I'm able to still do what I do. Because I don't know about you, but I've been called crazy, I've been called weird, I've been called many names under the sun, some good, some bad, because there's not a lot of people who can wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning like I do, work a full-time job as well, and also exceeding my full-time job. I'm not just like cruising past so I can spend all of my time on my side businesses. I work my lunch, and then sometimes I can be still sat at my computer at 9, 10 o'clock at night. Not a lot of people want to do that. And that's why I'm always like, so don't be doing it if you don't want to do it, because everyone's got an agency these days. Everyone's looking at a Rolex or a fancy car or a big house and all of these things that were being shown on social media. But then I'm like, you need to really get a spatula and kind of go underneath that surface, because it's not fancy cars and it's not fancy watches. They are a great side to it, but it is about what you're achieving with it. Like you said, it's the value that you're bringing with it.
Yeah, so many points. I completely agree on. Yeah, I mean, where do I go from that? I think specifically the money side. You know, money generally, especially within the IT, cybersecurity, startup, software, you know, that sort of thing. There is a lot of money in the industry, and it doesn't take very long at all, and you know, not loads of skill set to begin with to be able to earn, you know, very, very decent money. So, and don't get me wrong, I like nice things. I like a nice, I have a nice car. I really like it, and for me, it's yeah, and you know, and I love it. So I never ever say, like, you know, as you said, you know, don't get the Rolex or whatever. I mean, I want to one day get one, and I will. You know, I'm sure I will. And for me, it's not. I don't care what people think. I don't, you know, the amount of money that people waste to waste so much money just to show off to people that they probably don't even like anyway is just beyond me. I don't get it at all. For me personally, the way I look at things is it's stones, it's stepping stones, and it's miles. So, you know, I'm in a position where I can afford a nice car, great. I'm in a position where I can, you know, move into a nice place, great. It's that for me, it's to show me personally, right, I'm on track, I'm going here. And don't, you know, I plan to get that car that I got probably, you know, end of last year, which was, you know, a really nice car for me personally. It was a you know, high achievement, and I probably planned it 2 or 3 years in advance. So, you know, and for me, it's those stepping stones. So there's nothing wrong with getting, you know, there's nothing wrong with that being your motivation or being an element of your motivation. But I think it's how you manage it and how you discuss around it. You know, your approach to those things, because genuinely it's like, it's just money. Like, personally, and I know you're of the same mindset where it's like, great, you know, I earn you know, tons of money and you know, be in a great position, but it's like, how happy are you? You know, I just want to be happy. Yeah, you know, I'd be quite happy in a Ferrari right now, but wouldn't we all? So I think, you know, and for me as well, I'm fully on board with loving the process, loving the journey to get there rather than what it actually is, whether that be a certain amount you're earning annually, or whether that be you can afford to buy something or afford to live in a position, you know, whatever it might be. Enjoy that process, because when you get to that point and you look back and you go, yeah, I really enjoyed it, I worked for it, now what's next, where's the goalpost, sort of thing. Yeah, I think money's an interesting one, and different, you know, and different people of different sort of backgrounds have different perspectives on it. And it's interesting. You see a lot of people's motivation, and it's the cliche thing, isn't it? If you post something on Instagram with a Rolex, or, you know, I don't know, a nice car, steering wheel, wearing a Rolex sort of thing, it's going to get a lot of traction. Of course it is. But if you post, and you know this just as well as I do, if you post something meaningful with actual deliverable content that, you know, people can think about and actually maybe have a different perspective on things, it, you know, it might not get as much traction. That's the way it is. Do you want that traction from those people who just care about nice things? Probably not. Probably not.
Well, see, that's the funny thing, because I've always wanted to do this, and I will actually get it done at some point. So, like, because, like, I totally agree with you. Like, I want a nice car one day. I want a nice house one day. I'm not really so much into watches because I like Fitbits, but I do have a very expensive camera set, and I do spend a lot of money on video games. That's kind of like my thing. I don't feel bad for it. Like, but I also don't feel bad when £10,000 a month comes into my bank account. Like, I don't feel bad for it. It's your relationship towards it, I think, and especially your relationship to money in general. which there's some people who teach it really well and there's some people who don't. And I've always said I wanted to take a picture in front of my little Sea at Ibiza that cost, I think, £11,000 and a packet of biscuits or something. You know, like it wasn't. It's the cheapest car that I could get, brand new. And I want to like pose in front of it and be like this, and just write a post about it and just be like, you know, like, this is real, and this is someone who nearly hit 6 figures last year. You know, like that's real, you know. And but like, as you do, you know, I don't blame you for having a nice car. Believe me, if I could have one, fuck it, I'd have your car. Like, you know, I'd just be like, can I just have it for a day? You know, yeah, it's like, you know, if I could have a 3-bedroom house with a massive garden and a cute little dog that runs around it, I would. But for me, in that year, especially last year, that was my first ever year of making decent money. The year before that, so if you think this is my 3rd year now in doing side businesses and stuff, in my year before that, I don't even think I made 18,000, which, it's a massive step up. And then, but the difference was, I mean, you were there. Emerge Elite was selling out in 30 minutes. You know,
that was obviously our advertising and everything got that out there.
I don't have like 2 main male models, like it's not going to go anywhere. You know, I released a book that I never wrote for anyone else but myself, and I sold, I think it was 70 copies on the first day. You know, like, things started happening, but I haven't slowed down. You know, like, all I've done is just double down on it. And not because the thing is, I'm not thinking now I want to make 500,000 this year. I'm like, I just love the impact that I've made. Like, there's people now that I talk to and they're like, I literally wait for your post a day. I wait for your podcast to come out. I wait for your emails. And I'm just like, I am a little girl from up north. You know, I grew up in a very, very humble background. And I was like, and I still work full time. And I'm just sat there like, wow, like, this is possible. But I just see so much on the internet, and I'm sure you're the same, of all these people who are like, pay me £1,000 to give you a course and I will make you 10 times that. And I'm like, but you won't, because you can give anyone the material. It's like, because that's what I find by objectifying things. Like, if you objectify it so much, they're not looking at what's inside of that content. They're looking at what can come out of it. So they're looking at the car and they're looking at the watch in the house and this and that, but they're not looking at sitting at your computer at 2 a.m. in the morning because you have a client who's really not happy because his website's not working, and, you know, it's all crashed for a reason, and he's got tons of traffic going in and obviously no sales because it's not working, and it's your job to fix it. Like, that's the process. Like, and that's the part you've got to love, is getting a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning and just being like, oh shit.
Yeah, I think you got to embrace the suck, and I think it's yeah, I think it, and going on from your point in terms of helping people, that is genuinely, I know it sounds cliche and everything, but that is genuinely the only motive we've got with Project X, is that we, you know, I'm, as you know, I've got a huge passion within, you know, with health and fitness, and I've been training for years and do, you know, sport and exercise and all sorts and stuff. And for me, it's been an outlay, a hobby, and potentially now a career. So it's been sort of everything, and it's outlay in terms of stress, when, you know, it's like when you're working all day and you just want to go run or burn some, you know, just lift some more heavy weights and put it back down until you can't do any more and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think you're right in terms of the mindset and everything towards things. It's, you've got to identify your motive straight away. What's your motive? Why? What's your thing? Like, why are you doing that? Because straight away you'll get found out. You know, if your money, if your you know, if your targets are, you want a nice car, you want all of this, great, no problem at all. But, you know, own it, own who you are. And I I think and I think you can only do that by, you know, throwing yourself out there. And a big thing for me that I constantly push, and I even tell myself now I'm not doing it enough, is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think that for me is, I think I might even get a tattoo of it, because I live and die by that sentence. Because, you know, I mean, it's, you know, I joined in the IT industry at 19, immediately started cold calling, doing 150 or so cold calls a day to schools, colleges, universities, all public sector, and I was calling to generate business for Wi-Fi, Edge and Core networking for organisations where you sell professional services for installation, you know, all that sort of stuff. I was 19. Well, yeah. About installing LAN networks and working with the Cisco's and all these big organisations. I'm like, I don't know. But I remember it. We were sat in the sales office, and it was, you know, there was probably 25 salespeople or so in the sales office, with the owner in the corner of the room. He had his desk up there, and we were upstairs in the office, and all of us would just be bashing the phones all day, every day. And if it was quiet in the office, they'd go, "Why is it so quiet? Get on it!" Like it was, and you were like, "Oh, yeah, sorry, I was just sending email," and you're just on it. And I did that for probably 8 months. I hated it. I hated it because who wants to cold call and have the, you know, I'd literally pick up the phone and go, I'd get straight to the point, because I'm not calling sort of consumers, I'm calling IT directors, IT managers, SOC managers, security operations centers managers, and all those sorts of people. And, you know, you get straight to the point, and it was just quite funny, because I'd call up and I'd go, "Hi, I'm calling about your Wi-Fi. What have you got? What products have you got? And when is up for renewal?" There you go, straight away. "Okay, we've got this, and it's up for renewal." There you go. And it's like, I would be so nervous to do that over person, but I had the gift that I could do it over the phone, and then I've been able to mold that to do it in person. So now, you know, yesterday I closed a deal which was £118,000, which I've been working on for probably about 4 months or so. It's not the biggest I've done, don't worry. So, yeah, don't worry. But you know, it's a sizable deal, and it's, you know, the idea that I've been managing the process of, you know, working within this software, you know, deliverable to an end user during a global pandemic where cash is restricted. You know, you're working with IT people who are actually configuring the platform themselves, but also the procurement people. You're managing these different relationships. You're understanding how to sell to different people, how to build, you know, building relationships with different people on the way, because they'll help you when it's 9:30, 10, 11 o'clock at night, last day of the quarter, last day of the month, and you're like, "Mate, please get this PO purchase order over to me. I just need it by the end of the month, even if it's at, you know, 11:59 p.m. I just need that." And it's crazy that I was looking back. It's just bonkers that I would be having conversations about, you know, whether it be, as I say, Wi-Fi, Edge and Core networking, or cybersecurity or whatever, or building businesses who are people twice my age, maybe over the phone but in person, and how I sort of manage that. And I was petrified. In, you know, 9 times out of 10, I'll go into a meeting and I'm petrified, because I'm like, you know, they look at me, I'm half their age, they've got, you know, mortgage and kids maybe, and you know, families and actual real life, proper human, you know, bills and things. And there's me strolling in at 20 or 23 or whatever, and sort of going in, "Can you, do you want to buy this thing I'm selling you?" Yeah. And these people have got, you know, 20, 30 odd years experience on me. And it's like, how that is a petrifying, for me, thing to go through. But I'm glad that I have done it, and I'm glad that I still do it. I, on a daily basis, get put in situations where I have to think on my feet and learn of how to manage a communication, or how to manage a conversation in a certain way, so that it goes in your favor, or so that it's you know, positive. So whether that be for both my job, but also, you know, managing that with the investors, the partners, and you know, and people that we're working with for that. So yeah, I think getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is a huge thing for me. That's, you know, I'd preach that all day long, because that's, you know, whether it be mentally or physically, get comfortable and uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think that's like a really, really good quote. I've heard that quote before and stuff, and it's like, or, you know, step out your comfort zone or something like that. Like, I've heard that one as well. I totally agree with it. And I agree with it on the aspects of your career and stuff like that. And I agree with it mentally, physically, in life, in relationships, in, you know, in whatever you want. Because like I think we as people, I don't know if you agree, but you know, like in especially in my generation, so you know, like I'm 28 now. And in my generation, I remember growing up and being told, you know, Emily, whatever you want to do, you can do. Whatever you want to be, you can be. And I'm there and I'm stood there and I'm like, I wanted to be a footballer. But at this point, footballers didn't get paid. I was a decent footballer, you know, but they didn't get paid. They didn't get any benefits. There's no career out of it. I would still have to do something on the side. And I remember being like, Dad or Mum or Auntie or whoever who would listen to me, and I'd be like, I want to be a footballer. And they'd be like, okay, you can't be that. And I was like, you've just told me I can be whatever I want. And I think our generation has got used to that sort of saying, which is kind of like, if, like, I say it to people, you can make £10,000 and I can tell you how to make £10,000, but it's what you do about it that means if you make £1,000, lose £10,000, or make like six figures. Like, Scott, at the end of the day, I can give it all to you, but I can't make you do it. And I always say to them, like, you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you've got to get comfortable with stepping outside of your comfort zone. Because like you were saying with your phone calls and everything, at the beginning when I was calling up manufacturers and designers and stuff like that, I could not talk on the phone for shit. Like, I would literally do anything to not make a phone call. I would send emails, I would send texts, I would, you know, say I was unavailable, just so I didn't have to deal with that. And now I get like I call them warm leads. So like if I have someone who's obviously interested in what I do, they come into my inbox and they'll have a number at the bottom. First thing, I'm like in my car, like, hello, buy my stuff. Like, but that's what I'm like, you know, like, and now I just really don't care. Like, and that took me such a long time to do. And, you know, I spoke at a photography conference. And I never thought that I would be able to do that, even though I have got the gift of the gab and I can talk for Britain. I didn't think I'd be stood in front of like 250 people telling them, these people like you that have been doing it 15, 20 years, why they're doing it wrong. And it was really weird because afterwards people were coming up to me and just going, your speech was great. Like, you've just opened up my eyes to like how the new generation thinks. And I'm like, what? Me? I did that? Like, but every single time, I mean, I found especially is when opportunities arise, it is basically your duty to take it.
Yeah.
Like, they are there for a reason. If someone even just starts turning the nozzle, like starts turning the doorknob, and it creaks open a little bit, I am slamming through that door as quickly as I can. And I'm going to see what's on the other side. I'm going to analyze it. I'm going to see if I want to be here. If I don't, I step out and I close the door and I'm done. And I move to the next one. And I've done that so many times because it's the only way that I found that I've grown, is by just basically, like my post that I was talking to you today about, by just feeling the fear and just going, okay, fuck it. And I'm done. And then once I'm in, like, I've been talking to you guys, like when I was first in the gym, I don't work out with anyone. It's not my thing. Yeah. But I've met all you guys, everyone in that gym, and now you can't shut me up. You know, now I'm like working out beside you, like, yeah, guys, what are you doing this weekend?
It's amazing though, isn't it? And it's,
yeah.
And I think that's sort of, we go on mindset, but it's such obviously a huge thing. I think when you start working out who you want to be, working out what your brand is, and then start, you know, emitting that mentality, emitting that sort of, you know, way of mindset. I know I've definitely personally, I was never really active on social media, and whether or not people care, I don't really care, but I'm enjoying it. So I've been publishing, you know, a lot more content in terms of like what I'm lifting, exercising, but also stuff about Project X, or even just general sort of life things that personally I found helpful. If someone else finds it helpful, as you said earlier, you know, even if I just help one person on that quote or that, you know, sharing of something or content or, you know, something interesting that I find interesting, if they do and they learn from it and something helps them or something, or it kickstarts a conversation, amazing, you know, absolutely. And I think you've just got to get comfortable being who you are once you've identified, you know, who you want to be as a person and who you want the brand to be. But yeah, I think that's cool. But it's interesting actually going on from sort of what you said in terms of like humble beginnings. I mean, tell me about it. You know, I mean, I was fortunate enough to be in a position where when I was pretty much born until I think I was about 10, 11-ish sort of age, I lived in America with my family. So that was amazing. And that for me, I mean, that's why I want to go back there as soon as I can. I want to be on the West Coast within a few years, hopefully 2 years or so. But yeah, I think, you know, I was really fortunate to be over there. And then parents divorced when I was that, you know, 10, 11-ish sort of age. We came back home, and I've only really recognized it in probably the last year to 2 years or so. And I'm still learning every day now in terms of how tough it was. But the respect that I have for my mum that brought 5 kids back to back to your home, but back to, you know, England with, you know, going through, you know, obviously no need for details, but, you know, not a very nice divorce at all, where, you know, pretty much fending for herself, for her kids. And I was 10, 11 at the age, and, you know, and she had to pursue a new career and do that, you know. Even buying a house, we rented a tiny little apartment in Wokingham, and it was awful. We were sleeping on airbeds for like a year, I think it was. And it was having that, and you know, we all have our own story, and, you know, a sob story later, and, you know, get the violin out all you want. But for me, it's like that's taught me huge amounts of respect. And my mum always sort of says, you know, has said to me before that because my mum was very fortunate that when she was young, she got in a relationship and they pursued a Formula One racing career. So at pretty much my age now, 20, 22, 23, she was driving to various, you know, Monaco or wherever it may be, to race, and was in Formula One. Tragically, that ended didn't end well. So, you know, that was another thing. But she had that level of exposure at such a young age, and then all of a sudden she was 26, I think 25, 26, widowed with 2 children. And Shat was at 26. You know, my mum has carried that through, and seeing that day in, day out. And as I say, so I've only realized it the last year or so, it's just the hustle that she would have had, and the mentality and the strength towards it blows my mind, honestly. And that for me is like, you know, I just want to personally, I know it sounds cliche again, but it's just like, I want to be able, I literally texted my mum the other night, it's like, I want to be in a position where I can buy a Ferrari Testarossa and drive my mum down the Monaco hills, down to Monaco for her, playing Pink Floyd like she did when she was that age, just for her, and just be like, thanks, mum. Like, and I think the background of how that makes you as a person is interesting. And it's interesting how different people from different backgrounds, whether it be, you know, more fortunate or less fortunate, you know, they have different motivations, they have different mindsets. And, you know, and I back myself now saying, I'm glad we went through that struggle. I'm glad I went through that struggle all them years ago, because it's made me who I am today, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So yeah, I have things that I still want to improve on, still working on, but I'm very proud of who I am, and I hold myself on that. And, you know, I think the humble upbringings does do that a lot to you. So I think that's why we probably connect on that sort of thing, because it's a, you know, similar sort of upbringing, really.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, you know, I'm not going to go into my sub story because I talk about it all the time, to be honest. But, you know, like, people turn around to me and they're like, "You're such a good person," and I'm like, "Thank you," like, you know, like, thank you for that. But I am definitely the object of my mum and dad. Like, my mum works for the NHS, who is doing an incredible job right now. Not just right now, like her whole freaking life. She was like an ambulance driver, and then she went into like blood work, I think, and now she's like an ODP. So she basically helps you stay alive in surgery, which, you know, kind of beneficial. And my dad's a firefighter. Like, my family are public service, and, you know, and this is why I'm so like pro respect our NHS, respect our fire service, respect our police force, you know, the entire thing. Because like, if anyone takes any sort of inspiration from me, it is down to those two people. It's not like, I've learned things along the way. Obviously, I experienced things. I've not lived at home since I was about 16 years old, you know, so I've had 12 years of standing on my own 2 feet. But my foundations are there. And I can't thank them enough for that. And I'm the same as you. I'm like, I'm going to get to that point one day where I can literally just be like, you want that house? You want to retire in that house? You are getting the house. And just be like, just give them things that I very much remember when we were younger, that they always put me and my brother first. And on top of that, their jobs were to put other people first. And that's why I think I'm so passionate about helping people, because that's the only thing I want to do. Is I want to take that person from wherever they are, and just, if I take them 1 step, 3 steps, 5, 7, 10, just take them there. And if I can do that, cool, that's all I want to do. If it earns me millions, it earns me millions. If it earns me 2p, that's fine. But it's like, I know that everyone says, you know, like everyone's got a sob story and stuff, but like at the end of the day, I was like thinking about it back, because you hear so many, you know, you hear like, my dad did this and my mum did this and everything like that. And I think they're all valuable and they're all good in their own retrospect. But I love the way that I'm being like, people are like, oh, you must have had such a hard time. And I was like, no, like, I am so fortunate to be surrounded by those two people that I make sure everyone knows about it. Like, I don't want to turn around and just be like, yeah, so this was a really bad time in my life, because we all have bad times. And I 100% appreciate those sort of things, but it is definitely your mindset around it. And I'm the same as you. Like, it's only been in the last maybe 2 years that I've actually started to appreciate the foundations of it, like the foundations of how I learned to love people, like as like a collective. And then it's also helped me to love my job. I worked in the equine industry for 11 years, and that's not an easy job, because horses can be a pain in the arse. And but then I remember my mum and dad as I was growing up, and they were like, if you always work hard and you always try your best, you're never going to feel bad for it. You're never going to regret it. And I was like, yes, because that's so true. I wouldn't have got where I've got today if I didn't have that mindset, which is just kind of like, no one can beat me down if I'm trying my best, because that is all I've got. And it's like,
that's all you can do. That's all you can do.
Yeah. And then like before, when we were saying, and you were saying, we were on the topic of mindset and stuff, when I stopped giving a shit about people's negative opinions, my life got 10 times better.
There you go.
Then I got to appreciate everything that was good in the world. Like, maybe someone negatively didn't agree with something that I said. That's fine. But they could have said something really positive, you know, in correlation to it. Like, people are allowed their opinions. It doesn't mean I have to give a crap about it, though.
No, absolutely. I think, I think your upbringing, it's very interesting seeing it, especially with your friends and your peers when you grow up with school, and then when you then leave and do your career, in terms of, you don't realize actually how much the first 10 years or so of your life really grain into is creating you. I think that's probably the time that you're going to pretty much define, you know, it is, you can very much look back. You know, I'm just, as you're talking, I'm just remembering, like, I always remember my mum sort of saying, her you know, when she grew up, you know, in sort of like a little village. There wasn't really much sort of the idea of going out and doing something beyond being a receptionist. And she's told me this from obviously from her experience. And so for her to then pursue something like with her partner within a Formula One career, you know, even her parents and even, you know, other people would be like, are you sure you want to do that? Is that, you know, is that a good option? Are you? And other people would actually be like, you shouldn't do that. That's too risky. You should be a receptionist, or you should be, or something, which is obviously nothing wrong with a receptionist, but I'm just saying, like, they weren't that supportive. And that's why I'm so thankful that my mum has always literally said to me, do what you want. she, you know, I'm lucky enough to have, you know, a head on me where I can you know, I back myself in certain situations, but you know, my mum's never, other than my mum telling me I need to do my A-levels, she's never told me to do anything.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm so grateful for that, because I think, you know, I see it with my friends, I see other people, and you see it from their parents forcing them to go down different routes, you know, whether you follow the family career path or whether it's different mentalities, you see that in them, even traits and characteristics, of course you do. And I'll forever be grateful that my mum gave me the upbringing I did, so that, you know, I've been able to become the person I am today. And yeah, I think it's very interesting in terms of when you look at, you know, even just years before, what people's mindsets and people's attitudes towards things, how they also change when they're then also surrounded by different people. So like you said, when you learn that cutting out the negativity is key, 100%, completely, you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again, you know, if someone's killing your vibe, you got to get them out there. You cannot keep them around. I've done it, I've had it, I've found it, and maybe you can't get them out, but you limit them because it's just so detrimental to you. But yeah, I think it's an interesting perspective on how you see things sort of molding throughout the years and who that then sort of creates you, in terms of that. And even then, I mean, you know, you're not far off 30, but you're still, you know, hustling, you're still creating the empire that you are. And I love that. And I think as well, when people get to, you know, people start turning around and going, oh, I'm getting old, or going to something like this, it's like, stop it, man.
Yeah.
Stop it. Like, why? No, not at all. My sister the other day, she turned 30 not long ago, and she was like, oh, 30, ugh. And it's like, what? Like, you're like prime, like age, and your prime, you know. And we spoke about it. She was like, oh, you know, I see what you mean now. And I referenced sort of a few people that I heard that from, and it's like, yeah, I know. I mean, I can go on about sort of mentality towards things all day, every day, but it's super interesting watching, especially when, you know, how, just out of curiosity, what were you like at school? Were you what were you like at school?
I don't know the best way to describe it. I was like a really shy kid, but really chatty at the same time, and also a bit of an arsehole.
Brilliant.
The difference was I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
I hated school. I hated every second of school. I never really admitted that to my parents because I knew how much education meant to them. But I just hated being there because it was just like, I'd look at people and just be like, I don't want to be around you. There's like, and I've left school now, and I probably talk to about maybe 5 people tops, and it's like 2 of them are my best friends, and the rest of them I just chat on occasions when I'm in my hometown. Like, if I wasn't in my hometown, I probably wouldn't talk to them. Doesn't mean they're not nice people. Doesn't mean that I don't care about them. It's just, I just didn't like school. I just didn't like the whole aspect of school. And I think that's why, like, I'd either be really shy and just be like, I'm not getting involved with anything because I thought I was either too stupid. Because, like, my 2 best friends are super smart. Like, they got A's, A stars in everything. They got highest grades and everything. And, like, kind of, like, just scraped through school, you know, just to get it done. So, like, I was either really, really shy, or I was really chatty, because then I'd use my charisma to kind of get me places. I'd be kind of like, well, if I talk really well, I get a really good grade. I'm like,
look how you've done that in terms of building clients now.
Yeah.
That's exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last part of me was just being an arsehole, because it was just, I got to the point, like, it's a funny story. I got to the point where I was getting bullied quite a lot, and I dealt with it. Like, I really didn't care about it anymore. I just kind of like avoided those people. But then I'd see them go and bully someone else that they'd get a reaction out of. And then I couldn't deal with that. And then this is like kind of what's made me into the person that I am today. Because then I'd just be like, no, come bully me. Come be an arsehole to me, and just leave them alone. Like, they don't deserve that. They're just trying to be a good person. I was like, I can deal with your shit. Just like hand it over this way.
How old were you when they were doing that?
About 12 to 16. So, like, literally the entirety of high school.
And how do you look back on that now?
Oh, I really, like, to be honest, I feel sorry for them, because, like, we all did it in our own way. Like, I wish I spent more time focusing actually on school. And I hope that they are somewhere thinking the same. You know, like because that is a time in your life where you can actually take control of where it's going to go, especially if you're not going to do something like I did. Like, because nobody wants to see my GCSEs to hire me for social media marketing. You know, no one needs to do that. And then I've already got my biomedical stuff to be able to do my day job. But I earned that afterwards, and I had to put a lot of effort in afterwards to be able to get up to that point, which was quite difficult. But, you know, like, if I saw them in the street, I'm not gonna like be like, oh great, I can box now, I'm gonna knock his freaking head off. I wouldn't do that.
But knowing that you can is nice to know.
Yeah, but it's like I've had it before where some of them have, you know, I don't know how it's happened, but, you know, like maybe they saw someone in the street and was like, do you know how Emily Topping's doing? And then suddenly I've got these really random people viewing all my stories and stuff. And to me, that's just kind of like, well, good. I don't hold any grudges. I'm not.
What's the point? What's the point?
Time for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like school just made me realize what I didn't want to do, and that was it. And I just adapted to the environment around me. But then I think that is the way that I am in general. Like you can stick me, because I've worked in a post office. I've worked on horse yards. I've worked as a vet nurse. I'm now working in a biomedical lab. All of these things are so different, and they're just like day jobs, contracts with companies. Like what I've done on the outside, I've done paper runs, I've done drawing, I've done photography, I've done film, I've done social media marketing, I've done seminars, webinars, coursework, you know, like all of these things. And it's just, that's the way that I've been able to live my life, is like you get thrown into a situation and you just adapt around it.
Yeah, I think the whole school thing is interesting, and for me, I was very much not. I have got, you know, I had a lot of common sense, and I have got a lot of common sense, but I was not academically smart at all. And I think I'd like to sort of use this opportunity to say, like, if you're not, doesn't matter, don't worry. Like, it's not the be all and end all, because
we are definitely two examples of that.
Exactly, exhibit A and B. Like, it's genuinely, because as you say, I mean, my second job in the IT industry, I didn't give them a CV. The third one, I didn't. My interview was in a coffee shop, and then we went to the pub and was there for hours, because that's what the industry's like. But, you know, and you learn what people, and that the interview was what I'm like in a social experiment, you know, while you're drinking and while you're in that, and how do you manage yourself and how do you manage conversations, and that, you know, and I've been very fortunate enough to you know, be, you know, earn, you know, very decent amounts of money for my age and for anyone. And I've been so fortunate for that. And I think I've got 3.5 GCSEs to my name. I think the half is actually RE as well. So it's like, yeah, exactly.
What a great one to have.
And I genuinely think I'm pretty sure the only way I got into sixth form, because I'm pretty sure you have to have 5 days SRC or something like that. The only way I got in was because I wasn't a troublemaker, and because I just sort of got on with my own thing. And genuinely at school, I used to think I was really dumb, because I'd be happy if I got a C. Genuinely, most things would be a D, most things, which obviously isn't generally C sort of barrier where to pass. So I used to think I was really dumb. And that knocked me a lot. Fortunately, I had sort of the physical side of me, which helped me. So I excelled in, you know, PE and football and rugby and things like that, which did, you know, still help my confidence and stuff. But yeah, and something that really knocked me down, as you said earlier on, that you've been in, you know, super interested in psychology and like sociology and things as well. I did sociology at A-levels. And I had a genuine passion into it. And we'd have 2-hour lessons, and we would literally talk there's probably like 8 of us in the class. And we would just, I thank my teacher at the time, Miss White, for a throwback. She would literally start a conversation, and we would just talk around all things society and have a very, you know, obviously probably not as mature, but a conversation very similar to this mindset, and obviously talk around more social influences and things. But, you know, have those open discussions, and I would be, you know, putting things, we discuss things, we debate things and argue, and I loved it. I'd go do an exam, I fully got everything, I'd go do an exam, I'd struggle to get a D or even then. And I was like, and it really knocked my confidence. I was like, why am I so bad at this? I've got such an interest in it. And then I've left, and then I've been able to, leverage things that I've learned and skill sets that I developed then. And for that, so genuinely, anyone out there that's not succeeding in school or whatever like that, obviously it does matter if you want to be a lawyer or an accountant, something like that. Obviously, of course, it does. Don't get me wrong; it definitely has its place. But for me, it's I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be, in six figures and barely GCSE to my name. So for everyone out there, honestly, like I saw a picture a while ago, and I think it describes it really well. It's like the education system, and it's like got a picture of I think like a monkey, an elephant, giraffe, and different animals and stuff. And the teacher is like, right, the test today is climb that tree.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, some animals can do it better than others, and it's genuinely is the same thing. So anyone out there struggling with school or anything like that, it's like, don't, identify it, work out your weaknesses, work on them, obviously, of course, but it's not the be all and end all. Loads of people have been super successful with very little qualifications or anything to their name. It's not genuinely the be all and end all. And I think as well, it's quite an interesting thing in terms of how like the role teachers play as well, and how that develops you. I mean, looking back, I can probably remember 4 teachers out of my.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's like, but those 4, I remember, as I say, Miss Whiteford for enabling me to be, in that sort of take part in those sorts of things, and that's helped me in the future. But also, other teachers that helped me on just different things along the way. And 9 times out of 10, it wasn't even based around the actual test or curriculum. It was actually something outside of that, whether they told me about something or did, something like that. So yeah, it's interesting how that molds who you are today.
Yeah.
What you do to then grow onto that. But yeah, super interesting how it does change you.
It's like, I think it's like everything in general, from the teenage years I had, I've got a friend who's got a 16-year-old daughter, and Nojo, this kid is the best thing since sliced bread. Like, she is the most mature, kind, loving. She's got great manners. She's been brought up really, really well. And she was just interested in getting to know social media. And she was just like, I just want to know, like, what I can do with it. And this kid doesn't need any help with education. It's not like, like we're saying, don't sweat about the hard stuff a little bit kind of thing. She's like on track to be getting highest grades and all this kind of stuff. She's a smart cookie. And I was like, cool, do you have any business in particular that you want to pursue? Because obviously I think if you want to grow someone's social media, there's a reason behind it. And as a 16-year-old, you can't really do your own because you're too young. And it was this local little riding school for ponies. And I was like, cool. I helped her write up a plan, how they were going to do it. She's basically their content scheduler to help them book clients. And I taught her how to do all this stuff. And no joke, the appreciation of this kid who doesn't pay me a penny, and she earns her own £150 a month now because she does this. And she's still got top grades. She's still working really, really hard. She's now getting her own little pocket money and stuff like that she's earning by herself. And I remember discussing it with her mum, and her mum was like, these are the foundation things that I want my kid to learn, to be able to appreciate all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, man, I wish I was that kid when I was 16. Like, when I was 16, I was like probably sneaking out to get drunk, and was more bothered about playing basketball and football than turning up to class. Like, that's kind of what I was like. And it made me realize that we should never rush our journey anyway. Like, as you said, I'm nearly 30 now, and last time, oh god, when I was about 20 years old, I was like, at 20 years old, I was traveling in America, so I was doing really well anyway. And I'm sat there in America, and I'm like, yeah, by 30, I'm going to have my own dog. I'm going to have a house. I'm going to be making loads of money. I'm going to, like, at this point, I still wanted, horses full time. So I was like, I'm going to have my own yard. It's going to be amazing. And then as I've got closer to it, I'm like, wow, I'm really glad it didn't go that way, because I would have probably been in a situation that I didn't want to be in order to achieve that so quickly. Like, I could have put a mortgage down on a house last year with the revenue that I made, but then I also know that's not my revenue. That's my business's revenue. You know, like, that's hopefully when all this pandemic is over and I can open up a Merge Elite again, I'm going to just fuel it straight into that and obviously expand it. That's why I'm luckily enough to be in the fortunate position to not have to have my store open, because I have to have money coming in. I'm lucky enough that I can just pay off the overheads for a little while, and just kind of like, I can probably pay the overheads for about 6 months before I'm going to sit there and kind of go, yeah, we need to start making money again, because otherwise it's not going to be here anymore. And hopefully the pandemic's not going to last that long. Well, I mean, it's going to last that long. It's a virus. I mean, I'm a biomedical person. Like, I know about viruses. But, you know, like, our lockdown is not going to be like that, hopefully, in 6 months. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the impact on the whole pandemic, I think the impact on industries and the, you know, organizations and businesses is going to be catastrophic, and it already has been. Obviously, we've seen organizations go down, people being on furlough, you know, things like that. It's straight away, and it just makes you think. And for me, it's like, it made me fortunate enough to learn, wow, we're about to go live during a global pandemic for a software health and fitness industry related, you know, platform, and no one's allowed out of their house. How do we you know, pay our bills? how are we gonna do things? And it's been really, really interesting, obviously, watching it from you know, like yourself, to then I'm working with obviously large organizations, you know, enterprises, household names that we've all heard of before, and how they're managing it and how they are responding to it, and, you know, doing the whole PR thing, how they are supporting their employees, if they are at all, because we've seen organizations that haven't been regarded in the media as the best sort of way of doing it. Obviously, it's great that you're in a position to obviously just put the pause on Emerge Elite and say, you know, I don't want to put people at risk in terms of producing and delivering your product, because obviously it's physical, and it's great to hear that you've been able to just go, no, I'm not going to put anyone at risk. I'm not going to do that. I can cover the costs, as you say, for 6 months or so, and then let's introduce it then. But then you've seen it on the flip side of organisations going. I mean, I've personally, I had you know, opportunities that I had in commit. What commit means, you know, you're guaranteeing it coming in basically for Q1, and literally as soon as they announce isolation, they, you know, these large organisations, 6-figure deals, they've just gone, no, sorry, all new spending on hold for I had one that was 20 weeks. They said, but we can't buy anything for 20 weeks, at least, they said. Obviously, I've got to report out to the business, but, you know, I mean, obviously, it's the scenario is it's not too much of a negative response, but it's like, it's really interesting to see how organisations have been adapting, if they can be, to it. And if anything, I think for me, of course, I'll say this, but something that we're providing, i.e., you know, software as a service within the health and fitness industry, I think I'm very conscious to make full advantage of this and you know, be able to help people, whether it be the sole traders working for themselves, that maybe they can't deliver a treatment. If they're an osteopath, they can't deliver treatment. They're out, you know, they're probably going to be out of work for a long time, because obviously it's one-to-one contact. You know, PTs as well. And then it's like, okay, well, how are we going to, you know, leverage what we've got as Project X to be able to support those organizations through such a tough time, and then grow it out of there. And yeah, it's been really interesting, and it's definitely molded the messaging and the marketing that we are as, you know, Project X are going to publish. You know, and I know we've spoken about it a lot before, but in terms of the content, I'm super excited. I showed you earlier, I've got like vlogging camera now and all that sort of stuff. I've never done anything like that. I have not got, I mean, you gave me a session the other week which showing me how to use Final Cut Pro and stuff, and I think of which video editing software, and it's just completely over my head. But it goes on from what we said earlier, be comfortable though being uncomfortable. I've got no idea literally what to do with picking up a camera and vlogging and doing, you know, podcasts similar to this, and setting up what's the technical thing that I have to, set up to do this and publish it on the different platforms necessary, and videoing this and recording this, and creating all this content that we're going to do, i.e. how you can manage your business through this pandemic and things like that. And I can't wait to engage with people on that sort of level. I can't wait to have a phone call with a PT or with an osteopath or something, and we can go, okay, how are we going to grow? How can you go from maybe not working at all to at least being able to do something? And that for me is amazing. And then you flip that on the other side, in terms of the general public side, it goes, okay, brilliant. I'm sure you've seen it as well. The response generally by a lot of people is that a lot of people are doing things like the Joe Wicks thing in the morning, and that, going for runs and walks. And I've started running. I haven't run back since I lived in London over a year ago, and now I'm doing like 4 or 5 runs a week. And it's like I was always that dude who was like, cardio's, I don't need to do cardio, just lift weights faster. So I feel very hypocritical, but I think it's just very interesting how people are, both organizations and personally, sort of molding within this pandemic, because now's the time when literally no one is watching over you. If you're in this position that we are. So if you're at home all day, you might not be working, or you might be working, but what else do you do outside of that? What are you going to sit around and not do much? Enjoy it, absolutely, don't get me wrong, I'm all for relaxing here and there, but are you going to engage and go, right, this is my time to knuckle down? When we heard that obviously gyms were shutting on that Friday, obviously I was heartbroken, obviously, but that Saturday morning, literally that Saturday morning, I got up and I whiteboarded on my massive whiteboard I've got in the office, and I literally planned out, and I said that earlier, I was literally, right, I'm imagining we're in this isolation for 3 weeks, obviously it's gone from now, but at the time, and I went, what's the things I want to do every day? What's projects do I want to finish by then? And what new things I want to start by then? And I admitted earlier, obviously we, on one of them was reading books more, but I've not been able to do that, unfortunately, just because of time. But everything other than that, I've done, and I'm proud to look back and go, I'm a better person, and I've leveraged and I've taken control of an albeit terrible position, situation that we're all in, and I'm also very conscious that I'm very fortunate enough to be able to do that as well. I know that obviously there are people out there that maybe losing their jobs or whatever, that are now worrying how they're going to pay their bills, how they're going to support their family, how they're going to do X, Y, Z or whatever. So I completely appreciate that is another scenario, but for me personally I've just got the mindset of, right, well, what am I going to do to leverage that? And don't get me wrong, and I know we've spoken about it before, where we've had sort of time, I had it probably for about 4 or 5 days it lasted, where I was just of the mindset of, I just need to get out, I miss people, I just couldn't focus. I literally procrastinate. The second I sit down on my desk, I just, I can't do it. I'd sit on Instagram for an hour or TikTok. And so don't get me wrong, we talk about how busy we are, we hustle and we're grinding and working all this, but honestly, I procrastinate so much. And I know we spoke about it before, but I doubt myself so much. And, you go through these mental battles. And when my alarm goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning, I don't want to get up. Of course I don't. Imagine actually, I don't think I've probably woken up probably a handful of times at 5 o'clock and gone, right, let's go for the day. And it's probably because I'm training or something, I'm doing something fun, not working. So it's really interesting to see how people are approaching the scenario that we're in. But yeah, how have you found it? Because I know we've spoken a little bit about it, like ups and downs and things, but how have you been?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really lucky because I've obviously still got my day job. I still turn up to my day job. My routine hasn't changed at all, except for I can't go to the gym. I can't go to physio. Physio is probably the massive one for me because I was just coming out of what we would call my own isolation period for my ankle. It's now officially attached. It's not around. I can walk with practically, you can't even notice that I've got a limp. And I was getting to the point where I was about to start running, and that's what irritated me the most, because now obviously they're like, well, no, you've got to wait because you weren't ready to start running yet, so you've got to wait until we get back to start running. And I was like like all I want to do is lift weights again and run and get back my fitness and stuff. But I totally agree with the whole procrastination. I've never procrastinated more. And I think it was because at the very beginning, I had the same thing that you had, where people were just like, we're going to cancel that contract, and we're going to cancel that contract, and, you know, we're going to cancel that one, and that wedding's been postponed, and that's been postponed, and obviously that seminar you can't go to anymore. And I was just sat there and I was like, to be honest, at one point I was like, I've been working so hard for the last like 6 months to like nail this, and it's just all gone. And I went through about a 2-week period where I came in, I'd go for a walk, I'd shower, and then I'd sit on the PlayStation. And that's it until I went to bed. And, you know, I'm really fortunate. I live with my other half, you know, like it's not like I'm completely isolated on my own. I could talk to people. We could, you know, like have a conversation or something. And I was just like so out of it. I was like, no, I'm done. Like, I just couldn't be bothered. And then I think it was like at a point where I just sat there and I was like, well, you might as well start working on your own brand again, you know, like start doing your own thing. Because it's like, it wasn't easy to shut Emerge Elite, especially from what we just did in, you know, earlier in the year, the hoodie release and stuff. That's not easy, you know, because like I literally got to a point where I knew I buy 100 of them, like hoodies, they're gonna sell. And it was just really crazy to just be like, I can't just move on and do that again. Like you heard about the plans of what we were doing for our 3-year anniversary. That's not happening anymore because I was getting the stuff from China. Obviously I can't get anything from China now. So I've paid those people as well. So I've like invested about, I think it was like £2,500 in it, you know, for designers and all this kind of stuff. And now I can't do it. And I was just like, okay. And they're like, oh, well, we can wait until, you know, obviously everything blows over. And then my medical brain is going, well, that's 12 to 18 months. Then it's going to be the next frigging year. Then it's not going to be the 3rd year anniversary anymore. You know, the numbers on it are not going to make sense anymore. I was like, but it is what it is. You know, I definitely got into that mind frame where I was just kind of like, this is the situation that we're in. Yeah. And this is what we've got to accept. You know, like regardless of whether you agree with it or not, or if you think that they should have done it differently, whether they should have closed it earlier so we could have got a grip on it earlier, or whatever your opinion is on this pandemic is probably wrong, because everyone's got one. Yeah. Everyone's got an opinion. And to be honest, there's even scientists and virologists and those, you know, people who are talking about it, and even them are kind of going, well, we don't know, you know, like, because this is not something we've seen before. It wasn't meant to transmit from an animal to a human. That's, you know, no one was expecting this. And then, you know, the first case was announced in like November. I think it was November. Yeah. And I was like, we could have all started putting procedures in place then, and it would have never got out of China. But we didn't, because businesses would have failed, you know, like families would have broken down, you know, countries would have broken down. If you imagine if that happened and we just shut off England for 3 months from the rest of the world, we'd be screwed. Like, because we're a tiny little island at the end of the day that don't produce much other than potatoes.
We do more than that, don't we? We
have great farmland. Yeah. You know, so, you know, meat and stuff like that we'd be fine with and stuff. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, we'd have hardly any fruit, you know, and we would survive. Everyone would survive, but no one is used to that. You know, like no one's used to someone turning around to you and saying, stay inside. This is what you have to do. And I think that's why everyone turned into a panic in the beginning, because except for the very, very older generation who went through World War II, no one knows what this is like. You know, no one's had this experience before. I didn't know how I was going to deal with it. You know, my mum and dad dealt with it really, really well, but I think that's because my mum's on the front line, so she just straps on her boots and she's just kind of like, and I'm out for another day at work to save people's lives. That's what she does. And my dad's retired and, you know, doesn't really give a shit about anything anymore. You know, and it's just one of those things. And I think that's kind of like, it's like trying to figure out this pandemic is like trying to figure out where you're going to be in 10 years time. You don't know.
No.
You just don't know. You can't predict it. You know, you can predict it by putting certain things in place, but you know, it's just what happens, and this is why we've got to deal with the situation that's in front of us. And I think that's where my turning point was, because then I was able to sit there in front of clients and just be like, I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm not going to tell you that it's the wrong thing to do, because that is not my place, but this is what I think you should be doing in order for your business. And this was as I was closing my own business. So there were some businesses that I was telling, yep, cool, close your doors. Get as lean as possible, get rid of as many overheads as you can for the next 6 months, because that might be as long as that lasts. And then there's other people, especially my online clients, that I'm like, do you have an extra £3,000? Yes. Right. Okay. We're funneling it right into here. And this is where all the attention is. This is where we're going to make the most amount of money. You know, we could hopefully make that 3 grand into like 30, 40, 50 grand. And I was like, this is where we need to go. And there was clients that didn't listen. There's clients that are listening now that they didn't listen at the beginning, but this pandemic's just made me realize that I kind of live my life in that way anyway, not in a lockdown, you know, like I do actually like people. But, you know, it's just the unpredictability of it. Like you can't, it's a simple saying really, like I could walk out of the door tomorrow, get hit by a bus, and I'm done. And that's it. But I'm not going to live my life thinking that. I'm not going to live my life like, well, I'm going to look at both sides of the road because that's a clever thing to do, you know, safety and all that. But, you know, I'm not going to stop myself from pushing. Like I've invested more into my business in this last month, even though I've got nothing coming into it. So I've had, this was like my lowest earning month. I think I had like £250. That's all I've earned this month. Like extra, obviously my salary is the same, but I've invested all that straight into ads and stuff, and I've been pulling money out of businesses and putting it into ads and hiring people as graphic designers and finding, you know, because you're in the group chat and stuff like that, like I'm giving work that I can do to people who that's where they're going to make their money. Because I know that I am okay. My day job pays for me to live. So, you know, I'd much rather help someone else not have to do something that they don't want to do.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. I think, yeah, going on from that, it just start to sort of reminder that, I mean, there's a video I've probably spoken to you about it before. I tell pretty much everyone I ever meet on YouTube, which a guy called Jocko Willink.
Yeah, good.
There you go. Good. Exactly. There you go. So honestly, anyone out there listening, Jocko Willink, good on YouTube. It's 2-3 minutes long. I went through some serious difficult times probably about a year ago, just under a year ago now, actually. I think it was a year ago now, and I probably watched that video every morning for probably 3-4 months, 5 months probably. And yeah, 2-3 minutes long. And basically the crux of it is when anything terrible happens, just say good. Because it is what it is. You know, it's the situation you're in, whether that be, you know, you might be in a position where you might lose your job, or, you know, you might be put up, not be earning whatever you are on this. And it's, you know, and obviously, you know, bad things do happen, and, you know, you get thrown curveballs left, right and center. And, you know, especially in startup world is, you get thrown things all day, every day, and it's literally just most of your day is just battling, you know, just avoiding any situations like that. And it's genuinely good. You know, you get, and I'll probably get a tattoo of that as well on me eventually. Just good, because
words.
Genuinely, I love the fact that it's just literally good, like 4 letters, like straight to the point. But as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh yeah. I mean, it's yeah. Whenever anything bad happens, just say good, because you know, if there's nothing that you can take from it in terms, whether it be, you know, monetary value or whatever it may be that you've taken from it, you've learned, and yeah. that you know, you cannot put a price on that. And I've learned that myself. You cannot put a price on what you learn, because you can leverage that in so many different ways, whatever it might be, even if it's, probably shouldn't have done that. You've learned, yeah. Don't do it again. And genuinely, it's super powerful. I always think about it all day, and it's how you'll then and you do it in a scenario like this. And as I said earlier, when we got in this situation, when we realized where we were at, I went, good, all right, cool. How are we going to leverage this? How are we going to be able to support people, both the general public and sole traders, but then also ourselves personally and the business in the best way possible, and take advantage of the situation that we're in. And I don't think people are doing that enough. And I think people knock themselves down too much. They hear something negative and they go there. And I've had people tell me that I've handled, so I know this because people have told me that I've handled situations in such a different way that they would have handled themselves initially, but they've realized why I did do it, because once you've been in that bad situation, whether that be personal relationships, business, or whatever, it's backing yourself and going, all right, if I've got nothing less from this, is that I've learned this. I've learned this person, I've learned this situation, or learned this scenario, whatever. And you just got to do that whenever something happens. You literally just got to say good, and you go, cool, how am I managing this then? How are we growing on this? And I think that's all it is meant to be. That's all you can do, because no one obviously, as you said, predict anything. But how long are we in now? What's it been, like 6 weeks? It feels like.
I think we're into the 6th week now. It's 6 weeks yesterday.
Yeah, and it genuinely feels like, 6 weeks since I've been at Arc Gym. That is incredible. That is like, honestly, yeah.
For someone who can't lift much, it's still like, even I'm like, well, where's my Arc time? Like, yeah. It's crazy.
I know you've even responded to my stories of me lifting, being like, I'm so jealous. I wish I could share, like, come around and train. Let's do it. I wish. Like,
the funniest thing is, even with my physio, I wouldn't be able to do anything. And this is like the most frustrating part, because it's like, I want to go back to Arc. Obviously I do. And I can start squatting now, because see, that was the most annoying thing. So on the Friday of the lockdown, I was squatting 50 kilograms. Like, I was actually ass to grass hitting 50 kilograms again. And I was like, yeah, she's back. Like, and all this, and I racked it. And I remember one of the people coming in and just going, have you been watching the news? And I'm like, no. And they were like, from today we're like shutting, that's it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get one more set in then.
Yeah, genuinely, it was like when we heard, I think it was like 4 or 5 o'clock on Friday evening.
Yeah,
we were sending, like, Warren and I were sending, Warren, obviously, we were sending each other voice notes of being like, bring fences, bring timber, bring everything you got. We're locking down this place. We ain't leaving. Yeah. Bring pitchforks, everything you got. Like, we're not going anywhere. And it was such a. And I told Connor, obviously the owner, after, I was just like, mate, I always appreciated. I knew the atmosphere and everything was built there, but I never appreciated how much that has always been there. And on the whole training subject, that's, for me personally, and I I've seen other people adopt it along the years as well, and I can't recommend it enough to anyone. It's just like, no matter what you go through, for me, the weights have always been there. Doesn't matter, the best day or worst day, whatever you've had, that 200 kilo deadlift is still a 200 kilo deadlift. That bar doesn't care. Those planks don't care how good or bad your day has been. That is heavy as hell. So, so I told Connor, I was just like, mate, what you've built here is, and I can only dream of building something in terms of an actual, spirit and community aspect. I can only dream of building something like that with Project X. But what he's done there and made it such a family, and I'm preaching to the choir here, but the environment that he's made there and everyone else in the family that they built there is incredible. And that's something that I've really missed personally. Missing all the boys there, and obviously yourselves and everyone else there. And and what's funny is that we all share the equal thing of, we're all going there to batter ourselves. We're all going there to test mentally and physically, and do that thing every day for 5 days a week. I train, but that's enough. But I need those.
Definitely the way you boys train.
You do, honestly. The mental battles you go through, it is ridiculous. And I found it even more since, like, training at home, because no one's looking at me, no one's with me. I'm training on my own, or with the boys I'm living with, but something like that. So that mental battle that you go through, you learn, and I genuinely believe that I've carried that over, that mindset and that mentality over in everything else that I do in life. it's embrace the suck. It's, we say it before we do like heavy lifts. Warren and I have said it to each other where it's like you get like butterflies feeling in your stomach before you go for a heavy set. And we've told each other, we're like, embrace it, good. We've literally told each other good, because it's like, yeah, brilliant, get on it. Like this is, and it doesn't have to be whether you're deadlifting 200 or whatever kilos. It could be, going, couch to 5K. That is a thing that my mum's done, and she's fully embraced it. And so it doesn't matter. And people, I think as well, people think like, they see like, people like us like, lifting heavy weights or doing, decent amount of, decent level of training. And they go, how, that must have taken so long, or such a long process, and I can't bother with it. It's like, genuinely just enjoy the process. I love hit weights, and how I love how my, I want my physique to grow and be better, and I will always have that sort of goal. But I love the process I love that, 6 o'clock every evening, I'm going to go through a mental battle tonight, and I'm glad I'm surrounded by the people I am at the gym, because we're going through this together. But it's, this is going to be a struggle, and how am I going to embrace it? Especially when you go on your own accord, when you're training on your own, or if you're going for a run, I've found, or even a walk or something like that, that could be, strenuous in some sort of way, physically or mentally. It's, when it starts to niggle, or when it starts to hurt, or when it starts to really get on you, do you go, oh, I'll rest for a minute, I'll walk, or I'll only do 2-3 sets today. I'm not going to do my 5 sets of 5 or whatever. I'm just going to do 3 sets. And it's like, but and I know you've done this too as well. When you do that and you go, we've all done it. Don't get me wrong. I've had sessions I've gone, I'm gonna not bother doing arms. I'm not gonna do this, and they're the things I want the biggest, obviously. But it's like I'm not gonna bother doing that. And you get home, you're like, damn it.
Like, you sit down, you're like, shit, I should have done it.
Yeah, but you learn, and good, you've learned, so you don't do that again, or you do that less. And so great. So even then, when you do, make these decisions that you look back on and go, probably shouldn't have done, whatever it might be, you then go, all right, I've learned from that. But yeah, I think if there's one thing that I would, preach till the cows come home, is that something like physical training, whatever it might be, is amazing for you. It's, whether it be just a walk a day for half an hour, the difference. I mean, I've been going out for runs and stuff now, seeing all sorts of people walking and running and going for family walks and stuff, and you think, why didn't you do this before?
Yeah.
The roads would be empty in comparison to now, in terms of people running and walking and things. And it's like, I mean, I've done it. I'd say myself, I didn't run before, and I've now embraced, and I've, and done that. But it's like, so I'm, exhibit A right here, but it's how you sort of approach it and be like that way. So training's just, I think whatever you might do with training, whether it be powerlifting, bodybuilding, CrossFit, marathon, whatever it might be, like, I genuinely recommend anyone start something, even, yoga, Pilates, something, because you can take so much from that. I've stopped now, obviously, with isolation, but I used to do 90-minute yoga class every Sunday. And, when I did it, I used to be a lot heavier, and I think I was about 100, I was between 100 and 105 kilos. So I was quite heavy for my height, and, I was quite podgy. But I'd be in that room, hot yoga room, and we'd be doing that for 90 minutes, and you are just dripping with sweat, and it's like disgusting, but you're all in the same battle, and you could stop on, when you're trying to hold that pose, or I'm terrible at it, but I gave it a go. And, when you are trying to do that, when you're trying to do a movement, you could just rest a little bit here, or I'll go a little bit easier here. But when you get to that end of that 90-minute, your yoga class, it's like, ooh, I've done it. And that feeling, it's like a high. And and if you learn that, and you go, that was really tough, I'm knackered mentally and or physically, but I'm in such a better place, you can carry that to so many other things in life, for sure.
Yeah, you're winning then.
yeah, exactly. But how's your training going, and what are you doing then?
I mean, at the minute I can only walk. So, I mean, I've been breaking the rules a little bit, and I've been like running little bits because I've got proper good shoes. I've got proper Reebok trainers that are made for like trail running. So they've got very, very thick soles, which is essentially what I need and to lift my heel up because obviously my Achilles is now shorter, so it can't extend as much.
Okay.
So I've been doing walking, and then one of my clients actually has like a home fit program. So I've been doing that, which is, it's a lot of like body weight squats and bicycle, kicks and stuff and all that kind of stuff. So that's been keeping me ticking over. But to be honest, it's just, without sounding like an excuse, it's like waiting to go back to physio because I don't know how much I can push it because I don't know where my ankle's at. My ankle feels amazing. Like considering what it was like when I first started going to physio 3 months ago to now, like it's a different ankle. Like even though I've done a good job on it and I've broken it quite a lot, but it's completely different. To be told at the beginning that I wasn't going to be able to run, I wasn't going to be able to lift again, eradicate all sports, you're not going to be able to do that, and I was like, well, I love weightlifting and I love football and I love running. I was like, you're telling me that I can't do any of this? And they were like, yeah, no, you're done, like you're finished. And then obviously now I feel like everything that I do is like a bit of a blessing because it's like the first time that I ran on this anti-gravity machine, which is a fantastic piece of kit.
Is that the thing that goes around you?
Yeah, so it's that thing that I did a video about it, and it like sucks you in, and it basically uses air to take your weight away.
Okay. Nice.
You run at a percentage of your body weight, so like 50%, 60, whatever. And the first time I did that, like I nearly cried in front of like the entire gym because I was just like, I literally got told that I wasn't going to be able to do this again. And if you might, yeah, like I was told, like literally just forget about it. You're technically classed as like disabled. And I was like, you've got to be kidding. Like I all I did was run forward and it snapped. I was like, please, for the love of God, it's not gone. And but then I don't know if you remember, I don't know if we were talking so much then, but when ARC first opened, I'd just come out of hernia surgery.
I remember you did mention it. That
yeah. So I remember joining that gym and I'm there and I'm paying my membership. I can't do anything, but I'm paying it. And I'm like, I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to get back to it. And then I remember it was literally, must have been a month or so before I did my Achilles. I was back to squatting like 65, 70 kilograms. And I remember one day, you, Sam and Warren were on the squat rack at the end. And I did like 65 for like 3 and I racked it. And Sam just was like, yeah. And I was like, I can't believe that I'm doing this again. And then it was just crazy that a month later, I snapped my Achilles. And then it's that's it. And then I'm like, we're right back at square one. But this time I'm being told worse things. And I'm just like, this sucks. Because you never got the privilege, but like, maybe 3 years ago, no, it would have been 2 years ago because it was just as me and Sorrel started dating, I was getting ready for a bodybuilding competition.
Yeah, I've seen pictures and things.
Yeah, I was 64 kilograms. I had a 6-pack, like I was so body confident and I loved the way that I looked. Like I loved every ounce of the work that I put in. And I was like, I'm now sitting, how much? I'm sitting, oh God, I'm sitting like 14, 15 kilograms over that now. Like, I don't look bad for it. I'm not turning around saying like I look like the Marshmallow Man or anything like that, But for me, that is the most mentally stressful part of it, is that I am 14 kilograms overweight in 2 years. And there's not much I can do about it.
What's your approach to it mentally?
My approach to it is keep going with what I can do. So I can do the home workouts. I can go for a walk. I found out now that with the shoes, I don't get any pain when I'm running so much for at least like the first, I think I did nearly a kilometer without any pain. So, but then I got pain and fluid and everything into the ankle afterwards. So, I've got one of those massage guns coming, you know, like the Theragun things, not Theragun, but one like that, to help move the fluid around my foot. And I'm just kind of like adapting to my situation. Like, this is where I really wish I had the space to have even just like a bench, you know, or something like that, because I can literally work my body the exact same weight wise, so I can squat and everything. And that's where I've been asking at work that they get an actual they haven't got a proper bench. They've got one of those all-in-one benches, and the bench is that short that you can't fit me on it. Like, you can't fit me and dumbbells without like half of my back being off the bench.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I'm like, I'm suspending myself a little bit, which is, you know, I can chest press 45 kilograms, you know, so it's not light weights. So I'm there and I'm like, well, I can't do this. And then also their weights don't go high enough. And I'm like, can I have some more weights, please?
Yeah, that was interesting actually, because when I was getting my gym equipment, it was like, it's very difficult to be annoyed at this, but I had to order the up to 170 kilo plates package. And it's like, damn, I'm strong. Because it would be a lot cheaper if I wasn't. But I'm in a fortunate position where I had the capability and space to have that equipment. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine how tough that must be for you in terms of like, you know, not being able to train and not knowing what you can do as well. I've fortunately, touched wood, I've never been in a position where I've broken something or done something to that extent. Probably something that did affect me on a kind of similar sort of thing was a week before we were going on the yacht holiday.
Yep.
I was actually up the ladder in the loft, going into the loft to get a suitcase for the holiday, and didn't even think about it. I was just wearing socks, ankle socks. The ladder slipped, and I was probably I don't know. I think top of my head, I don't know. So my feet were probably, I don't know, 5 meters up.
Yeah.
And my height on top of that. So the ladder just slipped off the loft thing, and then I fell straight down. As I fell, I just landed straight on the ladder and fell with the ladder, and it was awful. Cut up under my foot, and it was awful. And it was, and I was on crutches, and I was wearing one of those orthopedic shoes. I'm sure you probably saw actually. And I did that on the Sunday. I was back in the gym on the Wednesday.
I remember that. I remember you coming in with the boot on, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And then, funnily enough, when I was in my boot, I was walking in with my boot, like, "Let's go."
I was actually on crutches, and I remember we went, and I was on crutches, and it was just like, I just need to lift something, I just need to get blood pumping around, because I'd sat there all week and gone over my foot elevated. I was like, I don't even go on holiday. I can't lift for however long, because I couldn't walk. It was all of my under my foot, so I couldn't put any weight on it at all. And I was literally sat on the bench, and I just did everything I could do with the dumbbell flies, shoulder press, dumbbell press, bicep, everything I could do. And I was just in this proximity. And then went on the holiday, which was amazing. And it was quite funny, actually, looking back, thinking I was on a yacht on crutches, which was pretty funny. But don't worry, I was still the last one dancing all night. And then, and then I think it was within like a week of them coming back, I then started doing legs, and it was like, okay, what can I do for legs? Bearing in mind I can't touch the floor with my left foot. So I remember even like doing the leg press, and it's funny how you sort of come around. I remember doing the leg press and putting my feet right to the top so that the plate wasn't on the cut up bit of my foot. So I could push with my heels. So I was literally like doing that. But even then I was like, this is amazing. I'm doing something. And that was like 3 weeks after I first did it. And so, I mean, obviously I've never broken or anything like that, but so I don't know on that respect, but I can imagine how tough it is, because I didn't think I'd go on holiday. I didn't think I'd be able to train. It was all, train lower for however long. And I've had injuries along the way. I've damaged I remember when I went to a, what's it called? Chiropractor. I went to a chiropractor back when I was like 18, 19. So I'd been lifting for like a year, maybe 2 years by then, I think. And they told me that I had a spine of like a mid 50-year-old person or something like that.
Wow.
It was so like stiff, and I just didn't warm up or cool down or do anything like that. I was just
You don't at that age though, do you?
I'm all right. I don't need to do that. But yeah, so even with the little weights that we did at the time, that still made an impact. And I remember being petrified at 18, learning that I've got the spine. And I think it was because it was so fixed, or it was so worn, the bits in between, I don't know, but the bits in between were so worn down on the discs. I think that was the reason why. But yeah, so apparently that is what it is. I then seeked an osteopath and managed to get that fixed and did work on that and everything. But yeah, injuries along the way do suck when you're training, because it's what you do, isn't it? It's you live and breathe training, whether it be just your walking or weightlifting or cardio or whatever it might be. So then if that's pulled from you, and especially if you've done it yourself, like obviously injured yourself, like it sucks.
Yeah.
So like, damn it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think it's interesting how you got to adapt and overcome those situations where you can't train. Even if you can just do something, it helps so much. But yeah, one thing I'm going to do, I'm definitely going to, since our chat today, I'm definitely going to start picking up my book again. I need to get on my reading again.
I'll be checking in with you, being like, have you read?
Yeah, the trouble is like, I can't do it during the day because I just get constant calls and emails and stuff all day. I just get distracted. And then I'll do it either early or late at night. And the trouble is, my eyes are just so tired. I'll just read a page and my eyes will just go. So I need to work out, like, just do a break during the day or something, and just split half an hour just to focus on it. But everything else, I'm quite proud that I've been able to embrace and take advantage of, really, on the situation we're in.
Yeah, it's just really, really good. And then on that note, I'm going to end this podcast because I think it's been going for over 2 hours now.
Wow, gosh.
Yeah.
Time capsule.
You said about doing 2 hours, and I was there looking at the phone like, we ain't going to do 2 hours. Like, oh, it'll be fine. And then I looked at the phone and I was like, okay, we are going to do 2 hours.
But it's just nice to catch up anyway, because we haven't caught up properly, especially since everything going on.